All right, well, good day, everyone, and welcome to one of PrimePay's monthly broker webinar series titled Effective Cost Saving Strategies That Make Sense for Your Clients. Did you get that? Sense? Okay, I'm sure you did. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to sit with us here today. We're thrilled that you joined us. Let me introduce myself. My name is Steve Jackson. I'm the Senior Vice President of Strategic Development and Channel Sales here at PrimePay, and we're thrilled to be able to bring this level of content to you each and every month, as we have had for many, many years. So thank you for many of you who have attended these webinars with us month in and month out. And we'll continue to strive to take a lot of that technical guidance, the regulations that we're all facing, right? And really dive down deep into those regulations and guidance and bring forth some strong practical application for you here at the end of the day. So really appreciate your attendance. Let's go over a little bit of the ground rules here before we get started. As you all have noticed, we've got a lot of people on the call here today, so all of your lines are muted, but within your GoToMeeting menu box, you actually have a questions box. And what I would ask is that we still want to hear from you, and if you have questions about some of the content that I'm going over today, if you would go ahead and type in your question directly into that GoToMeeting. Now, I will attempt to answer those questions throughout the webinar. Sometimes I'm successful in doing so, but many times just unable. And so what we will do, though, if I was unable to answer your question, we will reach out to you as follow-up after the webinar just to ensure that you get the appropriate answers to your questions. So we do want to hear from you. Please feel free to type in your question here as we go along. Also, a main question that we do receive is, are you recording this webinar? We absolutely are. We post every webinar on our Broker Concierge YouTube channel, and I want you to be able to go there, look that up. You can go there directly within a couple days of the webinar. We will post that, and we will provide you with a follow-up email with that as well. Excuse me. With many of our broker concierge partners, we also provide some exclusive content, and so I'm going to talk about that here at the end of our webinar here today, but that should take care of at least the logistics here. So the title here today, talking about cost-saving strategies, has been a key theme of PrimePay, but not just PrimePay. The reason why we're talking about it is because employers are talking about it. Employees, individuals are talking about how costs have really made an enormous impact in the day-to-day lives from an employer basis, but also employee. And so one of our kind of key themes as we talk about key strategies, applications, guidance, we are trying to center it around kind of three important themes, which are, creating efficiencies, maybe mitigating compliance risk, and then the third item here is what we're covering today, which is controlling cost. And so controlling cost, a big kind of a big opportunity. What I want you to think about as you think about controlling costs, many of you as benefits brokers, go into an employer site, you're mainly talking about that health plan, which is a great thing, right? But there are other additional costs to that employer, and we want you to begin thinking about, as you think about controlling cost, if you can impact cost to an employer, you might have made a relationship for life, right? Because you have saved money financially, but also offered key strategies to greatly help their business. But not only from an employer perspective, also from an employee one as well. One of those cost savings, so one of the ways that we wanted to kind of fine-tune our discussion today was being able to maximize cost savings benefits from the use of pre-tax benefit accounts. And it is so we're gonna kind of talk kind of from a macro level, but then really drill down here from a micro type of a level and really dig down to how you can best offer strategies that will drive the most cost containment for both the employer and the employee. You will not want to miss it because there's some great little pieces of information here that can greatly help you assist your clients in this area. We also want to show cost savings analysis. Let's get into the numbers because I don't know, maybe many of you have not really looked at some of the numbers as far as employee savings, employer savings, just what does that ultimately mean financially to an employer or to an employee. Not only is just a flexible spending plan benefit, a great cost savings benefit tool, but there is an importance of also talking and discussing and promoting other pre-tax type of accounts. There's great combinations of these accounts that can really expand the benefit offering. So let's cover that. And then, I'd be remiss if we didn't cover some of the key compliance items that are affected as you promote these particular strategies to your clients. These are not significant compliance items by no means, but there are simple things, simple ways that you can deliver on the compliance, which your clients often look to you very strongly in providing, when you provide these types of strategies, you want to make sure that you're backing that up with the appropriate compliance. And employers they don't know what they don't know, right? So they leave it up to you, they leave it up to partners like PrimePay to assist in that endeavor. So those are the 4 key areas that we're going to talk about. So as I mentioned here out of the gate, I mentioned that one of the key business issues of employers today and employees is just controlling cost, okay? And so you guys as benefits consultants, brokers, you are experts, right? Subject matter experts in regard to helping and assisting an employer through that maze of healthcare and really in managing those healthcare costs. And so I bring up here again to kind of get this kind of macro view, right, of where we are today. I want to try to put some things in perspective. And so I want to just kind of cover some key highlights, and this came out of the United Benefits Advisor, their 2015 Health Plan Survey. I've mentioned them before, this survey. I actually have used the metrics over the years. It's one of the most expansive surveys that is done here in the United States. They cover more employers, all across this U.S. Versus any other survey that's out there today. So it's a very good survey. If you can download it, you can get the information. I advise you guys to take a look at it because there's some great statistics and metrics that you can use as you're talking with your clients. But some key things, right? So if we go back in the Wayback Machine, right? Go back to 2000, 2002, 2004, right? What was the key talking point at that time? It was all centered around healthcare costs are rising, right? Your premiums are going to double in 5 years. Deductibles are going to double and so on and so forth. And here we are. In 2016, moving forward 16, 15, 14 years later, and today, the headlines are still managing healthcare costs that still are rising, right? So the factors, right? The factors may have changed a little, but the factors that are increasing rates are still some of the same factors that were increasing rates all the way back when this century rolled over. So as you look at within the UBA survey, they focused on a couple things, and I'm just focusing on a couple of the things out of the survey. Some of the key factors increasing rates have been ACA, right? The Affordable Care Act. Small groups have been forced into community-rated, more high-cost ACA plans, which has greatly enabled or disabled them as far as any negotiating power, right, with small groups. So unless your employer, small groups are going the self-funded route, they've got some, lack of negotiation skills on their part in regard to these community-rated plans. So, clearly there's other factors there, but small employers have continued to face the brunt of the increases here over these last 15 years, believe it or not. We were saying it, here in the early 2000s, and we're saying that same thing here today. Now, the factors of holding some of the rates steady here over the last few years has been the ability for large groups to continue to negotiate, right? So they have that ability to be able to negotiate power, that clout, and ability to kind of control some of their rates more so than certainly what a small employer would have. And also the potential ability for them to grandmother plans. Those employers can, or at least have up until now, avoided ACA compliant plans. Now that ability is going to continue to wane, it's going to diminish, and so they're going to lose some of that power, but certainly those factors have helped and assist. But through this rising healthcare cost, I mean, I remember the headlines back in 2000 and 2002, talking about the rising cost of healthcare. President Bush at the time really started to use the phrase consumer-driven health plans because there was more discussion around higher deductibles, higher co-insurance, higher out-of-pocket, higher premium costs to both the employers and employees. But look at those key figures here down below. The out-of-pocket costs are rising. I don't have to tell you this. You guys know this. So these are some of the most no-duh kind of statements that I'm going to talk about here today. But the median in-network single deductible has doubled over the last 5 years. The in-network family deductible has increased 33% over the 5 years. And then alone, out-of-pocket maximums have increased 12% just over the last year, so that double digit. So what, the exact same message that we were sharing with employers or feeling back in the early 2000s, we are still having that same conversation here today. So healthcare costs over these years today, they have not been, certainly diminished or decreased, although maybe some employers have seen a decrease from time to time, but for the lion's share of your clients and the prospective clients that you're going to be seeking, they are still very much on the rise. So keep that in mind. So because those costs are indeed rising, clearly, and again, this is a continuation in the UBA study, is that the growth and popularity of consumer-driven health plans has increased over 39% just over the last 3 years. So you guys have continued to see this increase, this flux, this enrollment of employers moving to these higher deductible types of plans or utilizing additional pre-tax benefit accounts to help them in how they consume, their health care throughout the year. And today, it's stated here in this survey that consumer-driven health plans make up about a fourth of all plans offered today, okay? So what I want to, when you think about pre-tax benefit accounts, the reason why I'm kind of showing this here today is that many benefits brokers, consultants have certainly begun to focus on other areas, right? ACA has consumed us, and I'll speak for me personally. It's consumed me, right? All the requirements, regulations, the reporting, all of these things have consumed us all. But we still have this underlying factor that's hitting us kind of year in and year out, and that's these rising costs. And so controlling costs and using cost containment strategies like flexible spending plans, pre-tax benefit accounts can greatly assist your clients through this higher cost, through these higher costs year over year. Excuse me. So if you think about controlling costs, and as I've mentioned, if you were to take the pulse, right, you kind of take the pulse of each employer that you're working with, controlling costs generally, okay, is going to be at one of the highest points, the highest causes of concern. And so they're paramount, right? So if you, as a benefits broker, can get in and create strategies to reduce or to, more effectively kind of reduce the increase, annual increase of those costs, you are going to be sitting in a very strong relationship and partnership level with your clients. So as you think about employer cost, it's not just the health plan cost. Although health plan costs are a major concern for employers, you also have many other factors, right? You've got, wages and compensation, so clearly the biggest cost or one of the largest cost for an employer, but also the biggest asset to the employer. is the employee, right? But it also comes with it a tremendous amount of cost. Now, we're not going to talk about it today, but there's ways that your agency can actually help assist in some cost containment strategies, some cost saving strategies as it relates to just wages and compensation. You also have capital costs, right? Assets, buildings, equipment, just the larger kind of major expenses that employers have got to deal with, day in and day out. Things that in areas that you can truly, can you assist with that? You may with that. May not be your strongest area where you can help with cost, but certainly you have the ability to. And then lastly, or the last bullet there, is compliance. Now clearly, as a benefits broker, as you think about just cost associated now with an employer, it is complying with new regulations and requirements, not just with new regulations, but also existing ones. And clients are seeking you as the most trusted advisor for compliance measures. And I think, a large present cost to employers is complying with these regulations, and you can help tremendously. And again, another webinar for another day. As you think though, so think about, as you look at that, think about how you as an agency can actually impact those costs, all right? The first one there is health plan cost, right? But there's those other major ones that you can truly make an impact. Now think about the employee. We don't want to forget about the employee. We want to secure business through the employer, but we also want to be able to secure that business in a way that we can control costs not only for the employer, but also at the employee level as well. So think about the employee. Clearly they have their wages, right? The compensation that they're receiving, but that's not rising at the same level or as fast as just general inflation has been, or not even remotely at the level of what medical inflation has been increasing, right? So yes, an employee has their regular consumer goods that they're going to purchase, right? It's going to be their food, utilities, so on and so forth. But it's also going to be taxes that they pay. And then the two key ones, clearly, that are major expenses from year to year is going to be their medical premiums that have seen increases, but also out-of-pocket medical expenses. Now, I don't know, as a benefits broker or agency, can you affect some of the consumer goods purchases? I mean, maybe with some of the affinity partners that you may have, certainly maybe not taxes to some degree with each level. But what you want to think about is not only the employee, but also who they touch, their family, right? The spouse, dependents. An employee may choose to enroll in the group health plan of your client, but they may not. They may waive coverage because they receive other coverage from their spouse, or in other means. And so you need to look at ways in how you can control cost, not only from the employer level, not just on the health plan side, but also from the employee level as well. So one of those areas that you can make a great impact for your clients is utilizing pre-tax benefit account strategies. And to some degree, as I mentioned before, some of you may not have been mentioning it because it hasn't been this key priority. We focused on ACA-related matters. But a pre-tax benefit account strategy is something that you're going to want to include in each and every employer. Why? Because it provides savings for all parties, any size employer, any group, right? I mean, it can assist and help any type of employer that you may have, but it also can impact any employee, any individual. And so even though it's been around for 37 years, when you think about cafeteria plans and flexible spending plans, they still today are the most effective way that an employee can pay for unreimbursed medical expenses today. It's amazing, but it's actually an amazing strategy. So first, let's look at some numbers. Okay, as you think about a flexible spending plan, it's good to have at least some metrics kind of behind it here. What we generally see here at PrimePay is that if you were to take a group of 100 employees, okay, that you're a current client or prospective client, and you adopted, or that employer adopts a flexible spending plan, generally speaking, we'd see around 25% participation in that plan. Okay. Now, Mercer had provided a study here a few years ago that they saw 37% participation. Now, enrollment in flexible spending plans. Now, they're working with much larger organizations, which have the potential of seeing an increase in the participation rate. But I would say generally with what you all would see here is about a 25 to 30% enrollment rate in these plans. Okay, so just kind of keep that number in mind. Now, part of me says, why is it even so low? It should actually be, it should be reversed, right? If it's so good, why are not participants actually, why is it not 75%, instead of the 25%? But let's go ahead and take it just a little step further. So I'm showing four numbers here. So 39%, 56, 20%, and 1259. So what do they represent? Okay, what they represent is some opportunities. So let's kind of just share here. 39% of employers, okay, here today, and this comes directly from government, the Government Research Council on flexible compensation plans. 39% of employers, or employees rather, I should say, has access to FSAs. Okay, which means that roughly 40% of employers today are offering an FSA benefit. All right, so what does that mean? I mean, that means that 6 out of 10 of your clients or prospects are not offering a benefit today. That's a great prospecting tool, a great door opener. Or it's an additional opportunity, if they have the benefit, to talk about some additional strategies to actually enable them to drive additional cost savings to the employer and to the employee. So about 40% had access or offered an FSA program. When you look at large firms, so employer sizes that are 100 plus, 56% of those employers offered a flexible spending plan. It kind of makes sense. I mean, the larger employers today, they will offer more, or more diverse or comprehensive benefit offerings, and an FSA is being offered to roughly 6 out of 10 of those employers. But again, are they maximizing? What's the participation rate? You as a benefits broker can really talk strategy and drive maybe greater participation and enrollment through those particular clients that you would have. Or you can talk to those 4 out of 10 large employers and say, how do you not have a flexible spending plan benefit? Most employers your size carry that. Maybe you need to think about your labor force and competition of your labor and start and begin to offer a flexible spending plan. An important number here that I think affects a lot of you that are on the call here today, because you're going to have a large volume of your clients that are going to sit in this level. But groups that are under 100 lives, so smaller employers, only 20%, 2 out of 10 employers offered an FSA here today. This is where you can have the greatest impact. If you remember a couple slides ago, I said that small employers, in looking at the rise in healthcare costs, small employers have taken the brunt of these increases year in and year out. I mean, you could say, well, I blame it on ACA. Sure, we can now. But prior to that, ACA was not around, and they were still receiving the vast majority of the larger increases there. So an FSA of 2 out of 10, so these small employers are the ones that it should be 8 out of 10, right? So you can make a very large impact of cost savings, knowing that probably 8 out of 10 of your smaller clients do not even offer an FSA today. What a great opportunity here for you. What we've seen from an election then, the last number is an average election. Now, PrimePay, we serve thousands of clients for flexible spending plans. We have great metrics as it relates to elections. Our average election here at PrimePay and clients is around 1,259. Now, Mercer, along with their study, had come out and said that the number for them was actually closer to about 1,400, okay, election. Okay. So I'll use throughout my presentation here today, I'll use a number right around $1,300 is the average election. But PrimePay sees here about $1,259 here as the average election. So when you think about that, okay, so employees, due to these rising costs, they need to set aside money for their unreimbursed medical expenses. Clearly deductibles, coinsurance, out-of-pocket expenses are increasing. So these elections have increased. And with these increases in the election, that's powerful because the employer and the employee can save quite a bit of money in regard to taxes, okay? So let me just just to kind of throw a line, kind of a brief kind of introduction of what the FSA rollover has done to the kind of the FSA world and the plans here over the last few years. As you all know, for many years from the beginning of time, when FSAs had been established, the use it or lose it rule was, kind of generally a key objection, right? And the introduction of the FSA rollover in October of 2013 has been tremendous, okay? And so what I had just put together here is from a study that Allegis Technologies is a software as a service provider. They provide a platform for hundreds of third-party administrators that perform FSA administration all across the country. They're the largest out there. And they had done a survey here just actually more, not as recent, but, pretty recent from when the FSA rollover was incorporated into these plans. And what they saw was, and what we at PrimePay continue to see here, is that once an employer has adopted the FSA rollover, is that they saw, at least on average, about 11% incremental growth in enrollment. So, for instance, if an employer had 100 employees on their FSA plan that were participating, they saw 11 additional employees join that plan. So now having 111 employees. Also, though, they saw a 9% growth in FSA elections, okay? So that means they saw that provision, they welcomed that position, and decided, you know what, I'm going to even add more into my FSA because now I really don't have that use it or lose it rule kind of there. Although, I mean, it's there, but it's reduced that risk, and now I'm going to actually add more. So again, with this, this addition to the FSA, having the rollover, it has increased the amount of money that people are putting towards elections, which again is going to enable greater cost savings strategies. So as you look at the rollover, just some key facts, just so that everybody has a level set. Again, just so you know, it's up to $500 that can be rolled over from the Health FSA to the new plan year. Okay, it only applies to the Health FSA. It does not apply to the dependent care account. The employer, though, still has options. They could choose between the grace period that has been here for several years now and the rollover, okay? But it's important as you think about compliance, if they add the rollover, they're going to want to add that to the documents. So they're going to want to ensure that they amend their documents appropriately by adding the rollover language. The grace period is kind of a limited time. It enables an employee, gives them about 2.5 months, 75 days after the plan year to use the remaining funds. Now, the benefit of having that grace period is that there is no cap on the amount that rolls over into that grace period, into that short amount of time. So there could be more than $500 that goes into that grace period. But the negative is that it's limited, to that 75 days. Now the rollover, it's limited, it's capped as to the amount, but now it's available for the entire plan year. So in essence, if someone elects the maximum contribution to the FSA, which is $2,550, and has up to $500 to roll over from the prior plan year, they will in fact have $3,050 available to spend in their current plan year. This is one of the most powerful items to these pre-tax benefit accounts because it removes many of those walls that had been there prior. So, as you think about certain sales strategies to promote, okay, we want to promote good sales strategies. We want to focus on, good thought, good talk tracks, right, as we're talking to employers about a flexible spending benefit. So let's just keep it simple here right now. And I want to focus on 4 areas here: the flexibility to the employer, a more expansive benefit offering, the control and flexibility that it gives to the employee, and then lastly here, the cost containment aspect, which is what we're trying to talk about here today. So as you think about a flexible spending plan benefit, you think about the flexibility to the employer, right? So you guys are in, generally, guys and gals, are in the group health business, right? You're talking to employers about driving and adopting, implementing a group health plan for their company. So if that employer adopts a group health plan, guess what? Hey, implement an FSA. This applies to any employer that offers a group health plan. All right, so whether you're in an industry specific to nonprofit, for-profit, government agency, whatever it may be, a flexible spending plan fits in every situation where an employer is offering a group health plan. Here's something else to consider, is that as a simple sales strategy that you want to promote is that adding an FSA, a flexible spending plan benefit, is that it provides the employee and employer, because kudos to offering a greater benefit, but it provides that employee a more expansive benefit offering. See, as an employer, as you know, you offer a group health plan. It's going to have what it's going to cover, right? Some will be a richer benefit, others may not be. So it's going to cover what it's going to cover. The employer or that employee has a lot of different variables that are affecting them and their family, right? Their costs that they would have. An employer isn't necessarily going to be knowledgeable of all of those different factors. So an FSA will cover many of the items that are really outside of the employer's control. Okay, meaning, what the employer generally offers, it's just, an employer isn't going to be able to cover everything. And so an FSA kind of enables that employer to really expand their offering and enable that employee to cover the key, maybe major items, maybe not so major, but key items financially that the employee may incur outside of the regular group health plan that they offer. An employer can also, in promoting a more expansive benefit offering, a way to incentivize, certainly, is to, maybe making a contribution as an employer, saying, hey, I'm going to put some money here in for you for that. We don't, that's not a frequent option that employers use, but it is one that employers will use from time to time. And so maybe the first year introduction of a flexible spending plan benefit, the employer could actually fund or make a contribution, and that could be very impactful. The next thing to fully, what you want to promote is that control and flexibility to the employee. And again, as I mentioned, that the employer can only control so much, right? That employee has a life outside of the employer. They have expenses outside of the employer. And so what an FSA really enables an employee to do is it allows their family, right? Not just them as an employee and individual, but also the family to choose what they need and also really control it based on their own personal needs. I mean, a lot of times when an employer offers a group health plan, they are saying, this is my plan, okay, enroll, all right, and here's what your the premium deduction is going to be, for you to enroll in this benefit, right? Here's what you get. Well, with an FSA, that the employer is saying, hey, I'm now offering you a flexible spending plan benefit, but you really choose what you want. Do you need dependent care account? Do you need the health FSA account? Do you need the premium reimbursement? Transit and parking or some of these others, is this important to you? Allow them to choose. The biggest area then as well is a simple sales strategy that you want to promote is the cost containment strategy that it's actually that's actually going to drive the results. So from an employer, it's simple, right? Generally, they're going to save on the matching FICA tax, which is 7.65%. Generally speaking, and I'll show you an example here in a moment, but it's going to pay for the administration cost of that FSA generally. And think of this, if that employer, which I don't know why they wouldn't, but if they add the rollover option to the health FSA account, that will automatically enable an increased participation and also election. I mean, so that alone is powerful and can get the participation where ultimately you would like it to be. Now, from employer FICA savings, maybe we're talking about a few $1,000s. I mean, I've seen some pretty large FICA savings for employers over the years, but generally we're talking a few $1,000s, right? The employee is where they gain the greatest cost containment and savings. So, you know, clearly they own personal election, so they can put it up to the maximum limits that are allowed by law if they want to, and whatever amount that they put into that, they're going to reap the benefit of the tax savings. Now, you know, generally it's going to be federal, state, and Social Security and Medicare tax savings, right? So it's Social Security and Medicare tax. Local tax if that's applicable, but the minimum tax savings that an employee generally is going to receive based on the minimum federal tax bracket of 15%, when you add in Social Security and Medicare and state taxes, the minimum tax savings will be 25%. That is powerful. Now we're not just talking about a few $1,000s that an employer will receive. We're now talking about tens of thousands of dollars that the employee will ultimately receive, and that's very powerful. There are some key sales strategies, though, that you are going to want to avoid okay, having, right? All right, so now this probably won't happen to you because you're in the business of securing health insurance with your employers. But remember this, if a group health plan is not adopted, ACA requirements now state under the accepted benefit rules a health FSA cannot be offered. Now that does not mean that you cannot offer a dependent care account, transit and parking, and all those other things, right? But a health FSA cannot be offered. So this might be far and few between, but as you're maybe prospecting, this might be something that would come up. And so you want to make sure that as you're talking about this, that they indeed have a group health plan in place. The second here is that you want to avoid the use it or lose it talk track. If you're still talking about the use it or lose it rule here today, then you're going by the way of the disco ball and disco in the 70s, right? I mean, that's like decades old kind of conversation. Let's get it up into this year's or current talk track where that rollover has reduced the risk dramatically tremendously. And so the use it or lose it rule, since it is still there, you should talk about it a little bit, but that risk has been reduced dramatically. So avoid really highlighting that use it or lose it talk track. What you also want to avoid is not mentioning the full impact of all the accounts. I mean, I've been focused on the health expense, right? So the health FSA account is very vital. But what's also very vital to every employee is, and don't forget, the dependent care account. Last time I checked, daycare is more than $5,000 a year generally for an individual, for a dependent. You know, the savings are tremendous. The FICA tax savings that an employer can receive just from the dependent care account can be enormous. But you also want to remember the premium reimbursement account. Now, that is focused on accepted benefits, things like dental premiums, vision premiums that are outside the scope of the group plans. But if they have those premiums, here's another way for the employer to reap FICA tax savings and the employee to pay for those premiums with pre-tax dollars. Huge. And also don't forget transit and parking. There are many municipalities that are now requiring that an employer of a certain size offer a transit and parking account. But don't forget, if you're just setting up those accounts, to also offer the health FSA as well. And lastly, you want to avoid having conversations where employers would actually put in to a health FSA a super rich, kind of a lot of an employer contribution into that account. We've come across many employers who might want to do that, but you want to avoid doing that. So here's the rule. If they exceed $500, or anything outside of a dollar-for-dollar match, employer match, that's going to cause an issue with the accepted benefit rule, and actually it would make it a non-accepted benefit, which would actually make it prohibited. Okay, you could not have that health FSA or participate or offer, I should say, that health FSA. So you want to look at plans. If an employer is going to provide a contribution, not make it more than $500 as a fixed amount, or make it more than a dollar-for-dollar match, okay, into that. So let's look at a pretty powerful real example, okay? And this is a break-even analysis that we're going to show here, and I'll try to highlight here some of the numbers. As I stated earlier, to provide FSA administration, generally there's going to be an administrative cost for the employer to manage or offer that specific benefit. Usually they're utilizing a third-party administrator, maybe such as PrimePay, to be able to provide that administration. So I chose here just a group of 50 participants, okay, in the plan. And we have an administrative fee if there were 50 participants in the plan. You know, if we multiply that by a $5 PEPM per employee or per participant per month type of a cost, that's $250 a month, or $3,000 for the year. So to the employer, to offer a flexible spending plan benefit would cost around $3,000 a year. Now, with an average adoption rate, remember, kind of going back to our metrics, if we could assume about a 30% adoption rate, we had a client size here of about 150. Roughly, 100, just under 150 employees, and we had 50 employees enroll in the FSA. Now, with the average election of $1,300, that means that employees will actually set aside roughly $65,000 for their unreimbursed medical expenses, daycare expenses, and so forth. The employee's monthly contribution to that, just for point of reference, would be $5,400. So it's 50 times $108 a month is what they would actually contribute. And so what does that all mean? So from an employer savings alone on a monthly basis, the employer would save a little over $400 a month, or save almost $5,000 for the entire year in that FICA tax savings match, that 7.65%. Okay, so $5 grand in savings. That's tremendous, right? On just here's 50 employees that are participating in the plan. So the yearly savings to the employee, this is what is impactful. This is what you need, what you need to see, is that if we assume our 25% tax rate at a minimum, which is very conservative, the total amount of those 50 employees in tax savings would be estimated at $16,000 here for the year. The employer, if we take those FICA savings of that roughly $5,000 for the year minus the administrative cost of $3,000, the employer is going to net out about almost $2,000 worth of savings. So by offering a more expansive benefit to the employees, well beyond their group health plan, enabling the employees greater control and flexibility in how they choose to kind of spend their dollars, but give them a way, a vehicle to save money on how they consume their health care. The employees, between the employees, they save over $16,000 in overall tax savings, and the employer is now offering basically a free benefit to the employees, where it did not cost them anything. And in actuality, they saved about $2,000 in savings. So the simple strategy, if you just take an FSA alone, if we don't convolute it with other things, right? We offer a group health plan and we offer a flexible spending plan benefit. All in all, from an employer perspective, it should not cost them much of anything to offer it from an administrative standpoint, and the employees and employer are set to save actually thousands, actually tens of thousands of dollars. That is a great cost savings and simple cost savings strategy. But you also want to look at maybe a little more comprehensive sales strategies. I know that many of you on this webcast, really kind of take deep dives into consulting your clients about, cost containment strategies, healthcare strategies, and so forth. So what if we want to kind of turbo boost this benefit offering here a little bit more? Well, we're going to be able to do that actually through additional pre-tax benefit account strategies. And so what we often call it here is combination plans. There's a combination of, pre-tax benefit accounts. And this actually will even ensure at a greater level full coverage of these key expenses. So the two combination plans that I want to talk about is the FSA with the HSA and the FSA with the HRA. And I have the stoplight here flashing green for a reason, is that, in the past, I think a lot of benefits brokers or even employers would look at this and say, oh, it's just too much. It's too complicated. I don't know if I can offer these things like I could. I don't know if my employees are going to understand. Well, what I want to say here today, given over the last 15 years of consumer-driven health plans, the green light is on. You have a great opportunity to introduce these additional comprehensive strategies because there are greater, more simplified ways to actually administer them, and it makes it very simple here for the employee to understand. So the first combination is kind of, they are far-reaching because they actually go farther than just your standalone flexible spending plan benefit. And the first item here is a limited FSA and an HSA. So as you all know, when you adopt an HSA qualified plan, a medical plan, it enables you to offer or to, as an aside, or in addition to, have employees contribute to their own personal health savings account. But there are restrictions in how you have the ability to contribute to that account, okay? And it basically says, listen, if you have a general FSA, you cannot contribute to a health savings account, okay? So, all right, well, if I can't have a general FSA, what can I have? Well, what you are able to have is a limited FSA. And so just a summary, a limited FSA would be established to reimburse only dental and vision expenses. These expenses are generally outside the scope of that group health plan, what it's going to cover, or maybe out of the scope of the dental plan or vision plan that they may offer. So it supports all those additional expenses that are not covered. A beautiful benefit to the limited FSA is that the election is available the first day of the plan year. So as you all know, with an HSA, you can only access what is in the account, right? So there's no advancement of dollars. But with a limited FSA, you could contribute up to the limit of $2,550, not even put $1 into it, but be able to access that full election amount from day one. Also, with a limited FSA, the employer can establish the rollover directly tied to that limited FSA. So you now have that rollover amount available as well. And there is also, to simplify the plan design, one debit card feature where the employee uses one card for this combination of plans is used flawlessly. It is a tremendous feature and benefit to assist an employee through the process of securing their dollars out of these accounts. Let me touch on HSAs here for a second. So an HSA in this combination enables that employee then, if it's not dental and vision expenses, it enables them to really reimburse themselves for all other unreimbursed medical expenses for their family, right? And so a limited FSA and HSA can cover expenses not just for that individual, but also for their family, for their spouse and dependencies as well. Now with an HSA, you have greater contribution limits. So, as a single here in 2016, they can contribute $3,350, as a family, $6,750. But the key component, the key feature, right, not only because of the pre-tax contributions that go into the account, but basically this account is their own personal account. And so, you have 100% of those dollars will roll over from year to year. If they leave the company, they can take it with them. I mean, there's great benefits. And so this one debit card feature really simplifies the ability of this combination, or the power of this combination. Because if that employee went to their dentist today and they had an expense, they could swipe their debit card and it will pull directly out of the limited FSA. And if they go right from that dentist office directly to the pharmacy to fill a prescription and they swipe their card there, it's now going to come directly out of the HSA. One card, two different major benefits. Okay, so very, very powerful in that combination. One other thing that I want to just kind of, show you as well is the power of how much you can contribute. Since the contribution to the HSA can roll over from year to year to year to year, right? And an employee has known dental or vision, kind of major dental or vision expenses, why wouldn't they use a limited FSA? So when you look at what you can contribute as a single or as a family, what this graph represents here, the two columns to the left, is that if you're a single, you can actually contribute over $5,900, right? Actually, that's $6,000 there is what can be contributed. Actually, I guess $5,900 if I can do my math right. $5,900 can be contributed as a single, and then over $9,300 if an employee had the ability to contribute to the max. $5,900 pre-tax dollars could go in as a family using this combination. Think of the FICA savings for that for the employer. Think of the tax savings of 25% on those numbers. But also think of the power of the rollover. If you have a single coverage, you can actually roll over $3,850 from year to year, right? If you're making that full contribution in the HSA and have $500 to roll over in the limited FSA. But also from a family, it's powerful as well. So this just shows that the contribution rate to drive the maximum amount of cost savings can be done with this particular combination. The rise of HSA qualified plans has made these two types of accounts very powerful together. So don't do one without the other. As you're talking about sales strategies with the employer, let them know what works best. What's a best fit? And this is a fantastic fit. We use it here at PrimePay. We have a lot of employees that participate in the HSA and limited FSA. Very powerful combination for savings. But let's go one step further in regard to combination plans. And the last combination that I'm mentioning here is the HRA and the FSA. So as you know, the HRA is 100% funded by the employer. You probably have a third of your, depending on your region where you are, joining us here today, maybe roughly a third of your employer groups are offering an HRA plan. And so, it's good to point out that from a cost savings aspect, a reason why an employer is adopting an HRA is that generally they have moved to a more high deductible health plan, which has reduced their premium cost, potentially saving that employer tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in premiums. But then also by providing an HRA, we now have a high deductible that could incur or could affect the employee in a negative financial way. So now the HRA is there to be able to reimburse the employees on a tax-free basis. That's what that HRA does. So an HRA in and of itself is a strategic cost savings vehicle. What's great about the HRA, and we can't go into crazy detail with this, but the plan design flexibility is enormous. From deductible-only types of reimbursements to deductible co-insurance. Maybe they're utilizing what's called a copay replacement plan design, or maybe we are setting up an HRA specific to accepted benefits, just for dental or vision expenses, things of that nature. So the plan design, each HRA could be a snowflake. Each employer could have their own special type of HRA that they have designed for their specific needs as an organization, but the employer really defines that, right? So not only are they defining the plan design, and there's great flexibility there, but there's also great flexibility in the reimbursement. An employer can choose, hey, I want to reimburse first dollar benefits, second dollar. Maybe I want to do a a sandwich type of a plan where employee pays first, then I reimburse the employee, then the employee comes back again. Maybe it's a sandwich type of a design. But also it could be a percentage split where the employer says, hey, look, employee, I'm going to kind of share in this risk with you together. So if you incur, $100 worth of incurred deductible expenses, I then am going to cover 80% of that and you cover 20%, right? So it's kind of a shared type of a financial risk. And also the employer then has the ability to determine who pays, what pays first, what plan pays first. Is it the HRA? Is it the FSA? So on and so forth. So the employer has some great opportunities here to be able to design an HRA that best fits their needs. Control and flexibility. It's fantastic. And then lastly, certainly rollover could be available, but also the election, the amount that could be reimbursed is available to that employee from day one. That's huge, okay? So great flexibility there. Many employers have adopted this. Well, what you want to do, employer, is that if you've only incorporated an HRA, you're actually missing out on that next component. And that's the general FSA, so a regular FSA plan. So the general FSA is really then putting the two together. The power is that the FSA then will reimburse any of the other unreimbursed qualified medical expenses, right? Kind of like that HSA example there before. It kind of picks up where the HRA leaves off. Generally the HRA is going to specifically, or it's going to reimburse a specific type of an expense, a deductible expense. Well, I don't know. Last time I checked, there's other unreimbursed medical expenses that an individual is going to incur or can incur. So having the FSA available really just picks it up. It's like that vacuum. It's going to pick up all those other expenses where the HRA does not do or offer any reimbursement. Keep in mind that the contribution limit, even though there's no contribution from the employee for an HRA, the employee would have a contribution limit of $2,550. So dependent on what the HRA is reimbursing, they can determine, because they have control and flexibility in what they choose, their election, they can choose up to that amount. And then a $500 rollover is still available. So if by chance an expense was reimbursed by the HRA, hey, no harm, no foul. I had put some money in my FSA, but that now can be rolled over into the next year. One other great benefit by having this combination plan, the two together, is that there are instances where you are able to actually establish one debit card, so making it simple for the employee. So key strategies, if you think about the group health plan, so an employer offers a group health plan. The group health plan that the employer offers is going to dictate if an HRA is needed, okay? And then an FSA would be used to kind of wrap around that group health plan. So basically that HRA and the FSA just kind of, completely wraps around the and helping that employee address all of those potential incurred expenses. So what you want to do as far as a key strategy is truly simplify the employee experience. Don't go crazy with a, kind of a heavily customizable HRA plan design, okay? The best way to maximize this type of combination is to keep the HRA simple. Have simple, have a simple reimbursement strategy, whether it's fixed dollar, percentage split. Make it easy for an employee to understand and to also have them administer their plan. One debit card, a strategy can work. It works really well in a percentage split design where you have an HRA and an FSA, so that when the employee swipes their card, and if the employer is reimbursing 80% of that expense, 80% will come out of the HRA, and the other 20% will come directly out of the FSA, all with one swipe. That's huge. That's powerful. And it also works well with other fixed dollar benefits, when you align it with specific merchant codes, such as emergency rooms, pharmacies, things like that. Debit card, where I want to caution you all, is really centered around when you have HRAs specifically established for deductible-only types of designs. Generally, it's going to be best for manual submissions or when you have some integration of EOB, if it's integrated with a carrier where EOB feeds are being sent to a TPA, clearly that's best. So the EOB match is really the best way to manage that. Also, as a huge benefit with this plan design, as you see in HRA, you got the group health plan, the HRA, and the FSA. They all allow for first dollar benefits. So as of day one into their plan year, if they incurred that specific expense, they'll be able to get reimbursed, through that. The last item here is compliance, and I know we're butting up here to the end of our hour, and so I just want to cover these just in real simple forms here. As you implement, as you talk about these specific strategies with your employers, what you don't want to forget is the compliance beside it. They're not tricky. It's not out of your bailiwick to even understand any of these things, but it's just something that you need to be aware of, okay? So as we think about documentation, plan documents, SPDs, which plans does this affect? Well, it affects all of them, all the ones that I have spoken about here today. So FSAs, HRAs, and HSAs all carry the component either under Section 125 for HSAs, that a plan document be created and that summary plan descriptions be distributed to employees, to the participants of the plan. Amendments, then, are going to affect each of these as well. There have been many new language amendments that that now need to be added into these documents, things like special enrollment rules for the health insurance marketplace, mid-year election changes, but also think about employers who have adopted an HSA over the last several years. That language for an HSA must be included within a Section 125 plan document. Make sure you're talking about that. Non-discrimination testing is required annually for FSAs and HRAs or for cafeteria plans. Plan design ordering rules will reflect actually all three, right? Who pays first? Can you have a general FSA with while you're contributing to a health savings account? The answer is no. There's specific ordering rules. Understand those best practices. Hey, the upcoming PCORI fee is now due here August 1st. So think of HRAs. Due to ACA, it's created this new fee, and so HRA clients will want to be aware that it's due August 1st this year, not July 31st, because it falls on a weekend. So August 1st will be the date here for the due date for the PCORI fees. Summary of benefit coverage, SBCs, that's HRAs, are going to be, needed. Those notices are going to be needed for HRA plans. PrimePay facilitates that. Your TPA or other TPA might facilitate that as well. But lastly, and very importantly too, is just the Erisa Compliance. As you're talking about Erisa Compliance with your employers, as you're discussing health and welfare benefits, FSAs, HRAs, and HSAs all tie into those documents. So you want to ensure that as those wrap documents or umbrella documents are being created, that you're also talking about and incorporating FSAs, HRAs, and HSAs into that mix. So as I wrap up here, just some, at the end of the day, you want to control costs, right? You're going to control costs by offering maybe new strategies, these pre-tax benefit account strategies to your employers, but ultimately you want to boost enrollment. So we want to avoid actually a lot of these key objections. That's in the past. Remember the disco ball? All right, so there was always these key objections that it's too complex. I'm worried about losing money at the end of the year. My employer, they don't really care. Maybe they're not really encouraging me to participate. Hey, I'm a young employee. I'm a millennial. Do I really need this? Or hey, I don't make a lot of money. I'm not in a high tax bracket, to begin with. So maybe this isn't really providing me with the tax savings that I need, right? So these are all kind of very impactful objections, but I'm telling you that's in the past. What you need to focus on to really control cost and really boost enrollment is that here's today. Any employer with any group health plan, you got a perfect fit. Every single one of these pre-tax benefits can be a fit to these employers. With deductibles, co-insurance, co-pays, premiums rising at double-digit rates or continuing to, it assures you a great conversation with the employer to adopt these types of strategies as they will greatly expand their benefit offering, overall. The flexibility and control for the employer and employee using the pre-tax benefits is huge. The rollover, huge, as it has greatly reduced the anxiety, over these forfeitures. But also, you could be simple and just adopt an FSA, but really think about using combination plans. Many of your employers have HSAs or HRAs already within their benefit offering. Incorporate the additional pre-tax benefits to truly max out their overall cost savings. Each webinar here this year, I've provided a SWOT analysis, and so today I think it's important, right, as you think about your agency and what you ultimately deliver as an agency or as a benefits broker to your clients. It's always good to think about kind of the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities and threats if you are not offering, if you're not consulting about pre-tax benefit accounts, not just pre-tax benefit accounts, but talking about how you can control costs better with your employers, right? So as we think about strengths, if your agency consults on pre-tax benefit accounts, I'm telling you, not every agency is doing it out there, not that extensively. And this is really going to reflect on the strength of your knowledge of yourself, but also maybe of your partners, but also the breadth of expertise. It shows that, look, employer, I'm very interested in saving you money, but I'm actually very interested in saving you the max that I can, but also with the employee's interest in mind. And these strategies can greatly help. So it does provide solutions. Your strength is that you're providing the solutions for all clients and prospects. As we think about weaknesses, weaknesses would enable your agency to maybe you're going to create missed opportunities with employers, right? These are, if you miss helping an employer control cost, you may miss other opportunities to add other value adds to that same employer or prospective employer in the future. So it can have the effect of hurting new business in the future from your existing clients and also with potential new clients. If you can get in with your employer and help them reduce, not just them, but their employees, reduce their cost, I'm going to tell you this, that will free up other dollars, other money for other meaningful revenue-enhancing opportunities for you, right? Prospecting clearly becomes a little easier with these door-opening kind of solutions. Are other brokers talking about it? This enables you to really get in have a great door-opening experience, but it also could enable you to sell other ancillary business or other types of services that you may want to sell. The threats are pretty typical here as I've gone through these SWOT analyses. There are many competitors, whether it be national, kind of human capital management providers, national payroll providers that are in the health insurance space. You also have online brokerage firms that are absolutely making recommendations or providing services in this way. So failure to make these recommendations to your clients can absolutely affect new business, acquisition and also just client retention. Competitors are offering more comprehensive solutions, as I've stated before in the other webinars. And this is just one facet, but a great opportunity for you to really reduce those costs for the employer. So I think I've said it, I don't know how many times here, but as a benefits broker, your agency sits in a very valuable position, right? Controlling cost, again, enables you to partner, not just be a vendor, be kind of that guy or gal that offers health insurance, but it really enables you to be a true consultant in their business and talking about all these different costs that are affecting them as an employer. Like I said, this is just one facet. You have an ability to touch so many other costs there with your employers, but this is one area. But you really sit in that best position, and I want you to be able to go out with these new sales strategies with actually these are older solutions, right? But these are new sales strategies that I think can greatly impact the employer and employee both and really make you look like a hero at the end of the day to save your client money, but also save the employees thousands of dollars overall in their normal day-to-day expenses. So I want to thank you for attending. That's a lot of information. I appreciate your attendance today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to sit with us. If you have any questions, we would love to talk to you further about our partner program, which is called Broker Concierge. PrimePay has put a lot of investment and time into a program that truly helps you assist your sales efforts, your service efforts, but also strategies, right? We provide a lot of rich content in our Broker Concierge briefs and presentations, and we'd love for you to have access to that. And so please contact our Broker Concierge team at the email and number. We'd love to hear from you, and we can share a little more in regard to how PrimePay is delivering these strategies for you, really driving value add solutions to your clients. For the webinar follow-up, we will be providing the recording link on our Broker Concierge YouTube channel. For our Broker Concierge partners, you will also be able to receive the slide deck to the presentation that will be in our Broker Concierge community portal that you can access. And we also are going to provide to you your own personal FSA cost savings analysis tool that you'll be able to use sitting with your clients and determining what tax savings could be reaped directly with the employer and the employee by just typing in a couple things. You can deliver to your employer what the expected tax savings would be for that employer right there on the spot. So we hope that'll be valuable to you. Our next webinar, we hope you can join us, will be on Wednesday, July 6th, so look for more information to come here on that. I hope that I have answered some questions. If we haven't, we will get back to you here just shortly in our follow-up and provide you with the answers to your questions. Have a great day. This will conclude our webinar, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.